Hey everybody, welcome into M&M&M Across the Board. Sean Martin, Eric McDowell, Ashley Miller with you every week. And guys, it's Super Bowl week. We're just a few days out at this point. And who would have thought at the beginning of the year? I know a lot of us talked Rams in the NFC, but not many of us talked Bengals in the AFC. But I still think it's kind of cool that we're talking about Joe Burrow and the Bengals playing for a Super Bowl.
We are. Who is the unforgotten guy going into the year? Did you think you'd be talking Odell Beckham Jr. in February?
Yeah. How about that?
He's resurrected his career.
He was the problem in Cleveland, but somehow he is doing just fine in LA.
It does. I saw something this week that says, Burrow, we're not going to say next Dan Marino, but it tells you how difficult it is to get in and how hot you can get. And suddenly, a young quarterback can get in. And I think we could see every year Josh Allen's going to have his time. But what a tremendous story, as we've said, for Cincinnati, and very happy for their fan base. And I know anybody that wants to say they have no chance, well, they haven't watched them play in the last month, right?
And I think that's what we kind of figured last week. Our guest, Joe Maniello, last week, he picked didn't he pick Chiefs Rams or Chiefs Niners? So he lost both of those.
Yeah.
So just when the NFL, you think you know something about it, you know nothing. And I think I've learned my lesson picking against the Bengals, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I think the thing to watch there is the Bengals O-line, which we know isn't very good, versus the Rams D-line, which we know is one of the best in the league. So we will get into the nitty-gritty in just a little bit. But, Sean, we've got a special guest today.
We do have a special guest. And Sarah Griffin, who is a digital content provider for the NHL, a writer, social media for Lacrosse Flash, and also a co-host of Satin Seltzer's Pod, right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to M&M&M Across the Board. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We're awesome. Anytime we can bring more girl power onto this show, all about it. All about it.
And anytime we can bring one that's from the Boston area, thank you very much.
Yeah, all right. I guess for now it's fine.
Sarah, one of the things we talked about, National Lacrosse League, is Ashley is involved with the Albany Firewolves. I covered a game Saturday night, my first time, and loved it. Talk about your involvement with the NLL and how that's going, and just kind of how you become such a big lacrosse fan.
Yeah, so it actually started out that I was doing freelance work last summer just for a newspaper around here, and they asked me if I wanted to do PLL coverage because I live pretty close to Gillette, and that's where they open up their season typically, is here. And I was like, yeah, why not? I played lacrosse growing up. I never really got super into pro lacrosse, but then I was like, yeah, I'll go to these games. I ended up loving it. And I was like, okay, I kind of want to just stick with writing and covering the sport and whatnot. And so I stuck with the PLL through the whole last season in the summer. And then I joined Lacrosse Flash in, I want to say, July. And from then on, they're just like, oh, would you be interested in covering the NLL? I know box lacrosse isn't super popular, obviously, in most parts of the United States. I didn't know anything about it going into it. I had never really seen a box lacrosse game. And I was like, I'll just, learn. I'll watch some old YouTube videos and see. And I ended up loving it. And now it's if I'm not working, I'm doing something with Lacrosse Flash, something with box lacrosse, the NLL. And it's been really, really fun. I love it a lot.
Sarah, let's start in the PLL for just 1 second because you brought it up. It's such a unique product in the way that it was created. So not the sport itself, obviously, but the idea of a traveling sports organization. So every pro team travels to the same location and they play for the weekend, multiple games every weekend. And I think what the Rabels came up with is just genius, because you're not asking the same fans over and over to come watch 12 games, 12 weeks a year. The idea that you're going to basically sell out a stadium or whatever venue you're playing in every weekend because you're in a different city, I feel like it's genius.
Oh my gosh, it's so smart. And I'll have try to explain it to people that don't really follow lacrosse. They're like, oh, so there's no set teams for each city. But I'm when you look at it as okay, it's going to his 4th season now. That's still such a new league. And lacrosse, it's not it's one of the 4 major sports. You don't have fans all throughout the country. There's places still that don't have any lacrosse clubs at all. And so if you do that tour style, I feel like it gives people that sense of, okay, here's a new sport. Like now they're in Charlotte for the first time this year. Like that's the first time they'll be seeing pro lacrosse. You know, you just have these like different places that are getting to experience it. And I feel like it's almost better that way because then you can just grow fans of the sport and the league before like, oh, okay, I'm in Boston, so I'm going to be a fan of this Boston Cannons team like it was with the MLL, which I feel like is why the PLL has had so much success these last 4 seasons or 3 seasons, I should say.
And listen, they were one of the few organizations or leagues in the country to play through the pandemic, basically. I mean, they played last year in different spots, and an outdoor game, it just makes so much sense. So yeah, I love it. I think the idea is awesome. And you get kids from all over, like you get kids in Albany who are a fan of any and all PLL teams because there's no real affiliation other than like maybe they love a player, but they're not affiliated with the city. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I think it's really fun. I like will tell my friends, I'm like, if you get into the PLL, I'm like, we can all cheer for different teams. It's fun. Like, I don't know, it's just exciting.
Yeah.
It's lacrosse it's been growing for years. We're in a hotbed here in the Albany area. And I just signed up my 5-year-olds to join a learn to play program starting in late April. That's a sport I want them involved in. So it just the fun, go to the NLL. What it really struck me was just how fast it was. And the almost the line changes between offenses and defenses between who has the ball. That's something I did not know about the game until I viewed it.
Yeah, I honestly think because, of course, I'm watching a lot of hockey, and hockey's a super fast-paced sport. I like watch box lacrosse sometimes. I'm like, I don't know how anyone can keep up with this. Like, I was like,
it's faster than hockey.
Yeah, like the play-by-play, I don't know how you're able to do it because like you said, the line changes are so quickly because they have to be like you're on transition, then you're on defense, you make one bad turnover, and then all of a sudden you're on the other end of the floor. Like it's insane.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What about the first game we had here, Ashley, right? We had the goalie fight.
Oh yeah. Did you see? So that, listen, and then people were laughing afterwards. They were like, wait a second, who didn't know about the sport? The goalies fight, and I'm like, okay, this is an extenuating circumstance. They don't always fight, but it was awesome, and it went viral. It was on SportsCenter. But what better publicity than to get that game on a national level when it wasn't otherwise? You know, it was on ESPN Plus, but this got it on the biggest of platforms, week 1 in the NLL in Albany, which was awesome.
I know. I was doing social for Lacrosse Flash that night, and that was one of the game I was watching. And, you know, there wasn't really super, like, big, like, highlight moments so far from that game. Like, I was posting goals, whatever. And then that came up. I was like, oh, my gosh. Like, I guess I have to post this. Like, how could I not? And it was, like, blowing up within 10 minutes. And all my friends are texting me. They're like, is this like typical in this league? I was like you can fight, but typically you don't see goalies fighting, and definitely not anything like this.
I don't know. They took all their pads out. I mean, those guys are padded up.
Yeah. I don't know how they score in this league because the goalies can literally block the entire cage. When I first saw it, I'm like, first of all, they look ridiculous, but there is zero space, and that's why you have to get them to move. That's like the beauty of the offensive game in the NLL is you have to do your and juke and fake, and that's required because you need the goalie to bite one way or the other. Otherwise, there's just no space to fit it in.
I know that's another thing I noticed at first when I started watching. Is like it's such crazy like hand movements and like you said, a lot of fakes, steaks, like everything in the book just to get the goalie to move even like an inch to one other side or something, just so you can get that one slot.
What are your impressions? You've covered or seen some Albany games. Sean said it. We are a hotbed for lacrosse. I think it's one of the very few sports that fans here have latched onto. At the high school level, we have kids who go Division I all the time. Luke Goldstock played at UNC.
Girls too.
Yep, and girls too. Like Kayla Trainer. Kayla Trainer's from this area. She's now the Syracuse women's lacrosse coach. There are certainly some really strong ties and really good players to come out of here. But what have you seen from this Albany team? It's the prior New England Black Wolves, so it's not like they're this entirely new, re-envisioned team.
I feel like a lot of people, like myself included, coming into the season, like didn't really have super high expectations. Like I figured they're kind of be like a middle tier team. And I feel like ever since they kind of just gotten this surge, I will say they easily have the best defense in the league, and I think that's really, really helped them because, like you said, like it's such a high scoring game, which is kind of crazy to think, like you said, because the goalie, like you look at it, you're like, how's anyone score? But it is like maybe just the fast paced nature of it. It is such a high scoring game. And then when you have such a strong defense able to slow like the best lacrosse players in the world down, it's really helped them. Cause yeah, maybe like they're not the most glamorous in terms of like, oh, look at this crazy goal, like whatever. But I'm like, they're consistent and they just continue on this path that I feel like I didn't see coming. I know for Lacrosse Flash, we did like power rankings at the beginning of the season. And like I said, I think we have them like middle of the pack. Now I think we have them at 4.
Yeah. Yeah, Eric, we're just talking about the strength of the Albany defense. And listen, their first 2 games, they weren't great. Their second game was atrocious. They got blown out at home in that home opener. But that's not the team that we've seen all the way through. And it's not normal for a team to score 9 and win a game in the game of box lacrosse. I think they would tell you want to shoot for like 10, 11, 12 goals in order to give yourselves a chance. And I think most of the teams in the league are probably scoring more than Albany, and yet they have a better record. They're in 4th place in the East Division, which is very rare in this game.
Sarah, I'm hope that we'll stay on. I put a new squirrel on the transmitter over here. Anyway. Sarah, I'd like to ask you about, I saw box lacrosse. I think they were the Boston, not the Lobsters, but years ago. I think the toughest position is goalkeeping because in lacrosse, you've got a larger vision on the field. Here you've got rebounds off pads and very quick, not just the quick shots, but the quick passes. And yet I know here locally, Albany has a tremendous goalkeeper, but wouldn't you say that's one of the toughest positions for indoor sports is being a goalkeeper because it's so much faster and such a shorter playing area?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, that's what you're saying. Like you have to like as a goalie, like, yeah, you have like this big, you have all the pads, whatever. But like you said, it's bouncing off of you. You have all these people right on the front doorstep. Guys are moving around constantly. It's not like anyone's like standing stationary, like waiting for something to happen. Like every part is moving at all times. And you have to be paying attention to, okay, where's the ball now? But where's this guy? You have guys hanging behind the net. You have guys like coming in from the sides. Like I don't know how anyone is able to be a goalie in that league. Because I'm like, I would just use my size and hope for the best at that point.
And Eric, you're allowed to do things like air gate. Like you can come from behind the net and dunk it in as long as you don't touch the crease. So like there are things that you can do in the indoor game that you're not even allowed to do in the outdoor game. So they're bouncing balls, like shots are ricocheting off the backboards right in front and they're getting dunked in. They're purposely throwing passes off the backboards. And then, oh yeah, by the way, you have to worry about them coming up and over. So like you'll see a goalie when someone goes behind him, he'll shove himself up against the goal because he knows they're going to try and come up and over.
I saw that the other night when when the shots were missing the net, maybe even on purpose, and bouncing up, the goalie's got to get back in so the ball doesn't come off the wall, hit him in the back and go right in the net.
Yeah, and we've seen it happen before. Like it'll bounce off of somebody and it just kind of rolls in.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the best team in the league? Who's the best player in the league?
That's tough.
Best team is Buffalo. I mean,
Buffalo definitely is the best team. I feel like their chemistry, they're impossible.
And they've got 2 UAlbany guys, Connor Fields and Dahoga Nanakoke. Those are two names that people here would know locally at Albany.
I would say my best player in the league, it's close because there are so many like good players. I might put Lyle Thompson, who I know Albany.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I might have him as my number 1.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely up there. I think he's the top goal scorer and he's also top 5 in assists, which is hard to do, to be top 5 in both. There's a guy in San Diego, though, that's pretty good, who you may know more about than I do. I haven't seen Dane play yet, but he's only played like 4 or 5 games and his numbers are right behind Lyle and he may be higher in assists.
Oh, he is nuts. I watched that first game when he returned to Calgary and had like 7 goals, and it was just like every single time San Diego had the ball, it was in his stick or it started off with him, always ended up with him. he is a scary person, I would guess, to compete against. Just how hard he goes. Like, there's one point, I don't know if he took a ball to the face or something, but he had like blood all over his face, and he's just like so unbothered, could not care less, just continues to score. I think he scored 2 more goals after that.
Yeah. And guys, or lacrosse players are very much like hockey players in that regard. Like, there was a player in this past game, he was on the bench, they took him out, and he's like head up against the glass, and they're just like glue stitching his chin, helmet back on, get out there. It's very much like hockey in that way, which you guys would love.
Yeah, the one thing I want to go back to Lyle Thompson, the respect that Albany had for him in the post-game interviews. It was a 1-goal game with just a couple minutes left, and the Albany players were like, Georgia had the ball, and they're like, Lyle's got the ball on his stick. That's just scary for a defense. The thing Sarah, you talk about how good Albany's defense is. They kept Thompson to just 1 goal in the whole first half the other night, and he got it going in the second half a little bit. But by that point, Albany had a 9-4 lead. How hard is it for the exceptional players? Everybody knows who they are, and the defenders are keying on them. They got to really be good to still battle through that, right?
Oh yeah, because you look at it like we said, Albany easily has the best defense, and obviously all these good players know that coming into it. Like, you have to push harder and harder. But like, you look at like this weekend, Halifax played the New York Riptide, and Jeff Teets, someone like, yeah, he's a rookie, but he's another person putting up crazy numbers. And I don't know. I think that was like his biggest test, because Halifax does have that really good defense as well. And I think he had maybe 2 or 3 goals, like nothing crazy. So it kind of really slowed him down. Maybe it was kind of a reality check. I don't know if it's also the fact that he is a rookie and coming up against a scary Halifax team like that who was looking to rebound. But it's like you see them go up against like these best players up against these best defenses. And it's like, okay, I don't know how anyone scores in this game, but I also don't know like how anything happens. Like, it's just like the best of the best on both sides.
Well, Sarah, these are the best lacrosse players in the world, these professionals in this league. And we talked before about, in the other leagues, like in the NBA, you play at Dallas, you have a charter waiting, a nice meal, etc. And then you get on the plane and land and get right to the hotel, and they spend all week together, shoot around. That doesn't happen here, does it? We have, for an example, locally, they had a game in Atlanta. Next night, they're going charter. So Lyle Thompson could be sitting next to Uncle Henry on a flight in the middle seat. They don't get food. I think one of you folks had mentioned they had to go right to the arena. So, and they also don't get to practice together all week. We hear that some of the players actually go home. Could you describe the challenges that they face logistically at this level for lacrosse?
Yeah, it's so weird with pro lacrosse, because you're a professional athlete, you're playing a professional league. Most of these guys are playing year round. If they're doing PL and NLL, you have like maybe a month off, 2 max. But it's also at the point that they're still not like, you can't make that your full-time job for the most part. Like, there's guys that are like, they're accountants or firefighters. Like, a lot of them have day jobs. And so that makes it even more harder, on top of the fact that, yeah, they're not getting like top tier treatment in terms of travel and stuff. Like, you have to make your schedule work. And sometimes there's been a couple times already this season where guys like, I can't travel this weekend. Like, I have work. Like, it's just logistically not going to pan out. And then you see it. Yeah. Like, they're taking buses. I know a lot of them are taking long bus rides or just charter flights. And like you said, like those quick turnarounds. And again, they don't have that time in the week to like really practice as a team. It's those like that weekend, that's pretty much all they've got. And you just kind of have to hope that you gel during practice and have a good practice, because that's your like one shot at that point.
Yeah, it's crazy. And guys, so like this is an example. Rochester, they signed a guy named Evan Kirk in the offseason. He's one of the best goalies in the league. They signed him. They had him for week 1. Week 2, he went out. They have this like specific list. Do you remember the name of the list, Sarah?
Holdout list.
Holdout list. And so it can be any number of things. He's on the holdout list because he had to go to the police academy for his job. He got into the police academy and was like, all right, guys, sorry. I have to go make this commitment to the police academy for 6 months. He's like, so now I can't play. So that's the challenges you face even as an organization and a GM when you're drafting players, when you're signing players. Like, you could run into any number of situations that just don't affect a different professional league, say like the NFL and the NBA, because these guys don't have to have day jobs. All of these guys do have to have day jobs. And like Sarah said, they practice one day. So they practice like Friday night, they have shoot around Saturday, they play Saturday. And then they all go home to their various homes.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They're all spread out. Like, I feel like a lot of people, I know there are some guys that like, okay, I'm from Philadelphia. Like, you do get a preference. Like, okay, I want to play in Philadelphia then. But a lot of them, like, they're in Canada. They're traveling every weekend to like Georgia, Texas, like San Diego. They're all over the place.
Yep. Yeah, it's wild.
I thought it was kind of a good sign, the health of the league, that the teams were playing in Georgia one night and coming back to Albany, just the logistics. I think some leagues would just say, okay, play 2 games in Georgia since you're there. Is that a fair observation for just the financial stability of the league?
I would say so, just because it is, you would expect a back-to-back like that would just be in the same place. But like we were saying, like, it's not like they're one of the 4 major leagues where it's so easy to just like hop on a plane, like private jet, and get wherever. So I think it's a good sign that they're able to get that done, and like there was no issues at all. Like, I'm sure guys were tired, but other than that.
My guess is they may not choose.
Career goal, if I could ask that, we've seen, I worked in college athletics for many years, and we've seen people like Ashley Miller who, were athletes who went into sports media. What would be your career goals? I would say the first thing that comes to mind for me would be, I think it'd be great at Nesson, intermission periods, but what would you like to have happen 10 years from now? Where would you like to be?
Ultimately, I think my goal would be in sports writing, doing it full time. Because like right now with the NHL, doing like digital content, which I love it. Like, I love doing the social media aspects of stuff too. But I think my focus, I would like to be just like full-time writing. If I could do like a combination of either lacrosse and hockey, that would be amazing. I know lacrosse is like, it's still such a growing sport, so it's tough to be like, yeah, I want to do just lacrosse.
Go to Canada and they'll give you millions of dollars for those 2 sports, kidding. Right?
Well, I was saying you could work for TSN.
I know. That's what everyone always says. Like, you should just move to Canada at this point. Yeah. That's where your interest seems to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've read some of Sarah's work. It's posted on her Twitter account in her bio, and she's a very good writer. We messaged during the week. The first story I read from her was her Dustin Pedroia tribute a few years ago when his career was winding down. So she's very talented.
Your podcast is great. Kenny Middleton, she's a piece of work. And yeah, the seltzer, I know it's definitely water in that. Yeah. But first of all, I hope she's not Rick Middleton's granddaughter, or Sean and I will really feel bad. But that is a fun show. And we mentioned before, you even have merchandise. You guys are getting a lot of hits. Big show, huh?
We do have merchandise. Yeah. It's fun. It's a really fun show to do. It's like 1-2 hours out of the week where I'm just like, okay, I don't have to worry about work. I don't have to worry about school, like nothing. We just kind of like shoot around for a couple hours. Like you said, we have like such like contrasting personalities that I feel like it makes it really fun.
Sarah, where can people find you? Twitter, shoot us your handle, all that good stuff.
Okay, my Twitter is at SKG_18. All my lacrosse writing's on at Lacrosse Flash. And then our podcast on Twitter is at Sat and Seltzers Pod. And then you can find that on Spotify, Apple, whole 9 yards.
Can you touch on quick too about the pink hair that you had going? You had the pink hair for a fundraiser.
Oh, yes. Yes, I teamed up with Prevent Cancer organization, and I dyed my hair pink. It's starting to come out now just because I did the temporary dye. I was a little too scared to go permanent, but so I dyed my hair pink, and I've been just kind of doing some fundraising and just posting about like different cancer prevention, like tactics, tips, things that you should be doing, just getting like routine cancer screenings, avoiding any habit. Like, there are cancers that are avoidable if you take part in certain habits. So just kind of educating that for the month of February, because it is Cancer Prevention Month.
Good for you.
Sarah, real quick, you got a Super Bowl prediction for us?
Oh, I will say, so I've been just picking every single week the Bengals because I love Joe Burrow, and I feel like I have to keep rolling with that. But
listen, it's as good a guess as any.
Right? I'm
You
like,
know?
it's been working for me. I'm like, logistically, I probably should go Rams, but I'm just gonna keep rolling with the Bengals. I think it'll definitely be a close game in that aspect. I'd say like Bengals 21, Rams 17. That's what I'm going with.
All right.
Good
Play the
enough.
under.
I
We'll write
like it.
that down. We'll hold you to it.
I like it. Well, Sarah, we're going to catch up with you when the PLL comes back to
Yes.
Albany to kick off the season. So June, maybe ahead of June, we'll have you and we can get a player on here. We'll do it all. We'll go lacrosse big. People love lacrosse around here, so you can never have too much of it.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Of
You get
course.
the hat of the week. Lacrosse hat of the week.
Out of the week.
All right. Take
Awesome.
care, Sarah.
Hopefully we'll see
Thanks for
you. We'll
joining
see
us.
you in June, and I'll read some of your
Yes.
stuff. Share your stuff too.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
guys so
joining
much
me.
for having me.
Of course,
Sure.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Have a great
Bye.
day now. Bye now.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you to
Very
Sarah. What a
talented.
great guest.
Very talented. We'll be watching her someday.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
sure.
she's a good writer, for sure, and her social media content. She's in that age bracket that's
Yeah.
way
I was
out of
gonna
my
say,
realm of
That's
skill
the age
set.
bracket right below me.
Yeah, right.
I'm not very good at the social media stuff. I try, but doesn't work out the best.
Yeah.
Check out the podcast, folks. It is hilarious. It
I will.
really is. It's
That's
great.
awesome.
It's funny as heck.
Cool.
All right. Hey, before we get back to the Super Bowl, it's a new year with new goals. So start your year right behind the wheel of your new or pre-owned vehicle that fits your budget or your New Year's resolutions. Stop into Mohawk Honda and check out our broad selection of pre-owned inventory. We're here to find the right make, model, and price point to fit your budget. Our goal is to help you meet your goals. Let Luis, the VIP Memorales, Jake Hot Sauce Doyle, Cars with Kern Svoboda, or Mark from Clifton Park Ellis Jr. connect you up with the perfect deal. Right now is the perfect time to get top dollar for your trade-in with your Kelly Blue Book instant cash offer. Same day check in your hand the day you trade in your vehicle. Just ask for Brian with BMAC, McKenna, Mike Benice, Nicole Ozer, or Cam. Let's do a deal, McKenna. Again, all of our sales and leasing consultants will make your New Year's automotive goals their top priority. Start the new year right with just the new right deal at Mohawk Honda in Glenville, where they always go out of their way to please you. Super Bowl 5-6.
Wow.
What do we have?
Unreal.
Yeah, Bengals Rams. You said at the top of the podcast, you probably made a couple of bucks if you had that one riding on it at
Yeah, you did.
at your local favorite gambling website. First of all, before we get to the game, I love Super Bowl. I love the whole day. It's like Christmas Day for me.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Okay. What do you guys have a tradition that you do on the Super Bowl? Any food that you have? What's it look like?
Pre-COVID, we had a party and we'd put out all the stuff, tremendous food, and we'd put one of the stickers on the glass windows of all the parties that we'd had before, and we had to stop, obviously, a couple of years ago, and people would root for the Patriots to lose before the Super Bowl so I could actually be a good host and not be flipping out and put in the corner of the room by Jennifer. So we hope the party will return next year. Ashley, how about you?
Well, I have zero Super Bowl traditions because normally I work it or my husband works it. So this is, I'm going to get lucky this year because I've been working the morning show this week. I'm off this weekend. And also because the show, because the Super Bowl is on NBC, they bring in the big guns. So like Rogers got the Super Bowl weekend. So God bless him. I thank him for working. And I get off this weekend, which is pretty great. So we are heading up to Lake Placid for the weekend, but we're coming home on Sunday morning because we want to be home for the Super Bowl to see it. And we're actually going to hit up a Super Bowl party up at Saratoga National with Harrison Butker, who's going to be in town with the novice guys.
Sweet.
Yeah, so we're going to hang out with a Super Bowl champ. So not a tradition at all, and I'll probably never get to do it again. So I'm pretty excited.
She can give him kicking lessons. You've seen that promo.
Well, he can give me kicking lessons after that promo. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I enjoy. It's a stay home day. My boys are 5.5. They know the sports. They know the Bruins. They know when the Raiders are on. They like the Bengals because their favorite animals right now are tigers.
Aww.
So
that's so cute.
Yeah, cute. A couple of weeks ago, who do you want, the Raiders or the Bengals? I want the Tigers. I'm like, well,
so are you going to root for the Bengals for that reason?
No.
Okay.
No, I might.
It's hard to find a stuffed ram in a Toys R Us store, though, right? It's easy to get a tiger.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are keys to the game? Where are you guys at with this matchup?
Well,
Yeah,
Ashley, you
Yeah, I
led
brought
with it
up the
right
big
off
one.
the bat. There's no surprise, Ashley. It is, as you said, the O-line situation. You got one team, the Rams, that had the most sacks at 50, Bengals with 55. I think Burrow's got so many fun toys to play with. My concern is that two of the best players in NFL history defensively are going to put him into the corner of the room. I just don't know how. The way that O-line is, Ashley, right now, it is even looking more inconsistent for Cincinnati in the playoffs. I think it's going to be extremely difficult. That seems to be the key of this.
Yeah, I mean, you got LA who had the number 1 pass rush win rate in the league, and I believe that was regular season. And then you've got the Bengals who had the 30th best pass rush or pass block win rate. That's a recipe for disaster. But at the end of the day, I just think to myself, the Titans got to him 9 times, and they still won.
Yep.
What are the chances that the Rams sack him more than 9 times? Probably not very good. I'll take the under on that. So they've shown the ability to win despite being sacked 9 times. And now listen, I think the Rams pass rush is certainly better than the Titans pass rush. So I say I'll take the under, but if it's really bad, what's to say he's not on his back 10 or 11 times? My guess is they're going to do a really good job with Joe Mixon, and they're going to do a really good job getting the ball. I think getting the ball out quickly is going to be it makes sense, but getting the ball out quickly is going to be ideal. Whether it's using Jamar Chase on short slants, whether it's using a guy like Joe Mixon in the flat and throwing to him, establishing a run game so that you can maybe give Joe Burrow a fighting chance. Because at the end of the day, Aaron Donald and Von Miller are probably going to put him on his back. It's just going to be a matter of how many times they do it, and you hope that he doesn't get hurt when they do it.
Yeah, look, they've had 2 weeks to prepare a game plan, right? You can slow down a pass rush. You have a tight end chip Von Miller and then flare out into the flat, into the open area, and make them defend those zones. Maybe slow them down. I think the key for the Bengals, 2 things for the Bengals. They got down 21-3 to the Chiefs. First 3 drives of the game were all Kansas City touchdowns. And I'm watching the game and just thinking, you know what? They had a nice year. They made the playoffs. They won their first playoff game in 31 years, their first road playoff game in history. It ends in Kansas City. They're just overmatched. And guess what? They figured it out. And their defense, I think, is underrated. They can get to the quarterback as well. Their secondary is very good. They made Pat Mahomes, you read, I'm watching a lot of experts, Rex Ryan and a few others, saying that they thought Mahomes lost confidence in the second half of that game. And that wasn't anything he was doing. It was what the Bengals did to him. So the fact that young team that had never been there got off the deck, didn't panic, hung in there. Yeah, the Chiefs gave them a gift at the end of the first half by not going for a field goal and making momentum even more so. They came back. And I think a lot of that is Joe Burrow. I'm skeptical of young players and young quarterbacks, and you got to kind of earn it. Yep. He's earned it. He's the real deal. I mean, this kid is unflappable. And I think the team takes on that mentality and that persona of him. But the biggest difference in this game, I think, the biggest key, Evan McPherson doesn't seem to miss for the Bengals. And the Rams field goal kicker is spotty at best. And that's a big, big weapon. The Bengals need to get to the 40-yard line of the Rams. And you're looking at points. Yeah. And points, as we've been saying all year, are a premium. And that's one of the biggest differences in this matchup.
I think coming in, you have 2 of the best kickers, meaning in the Super Bowl. There's always been a Vinatieri, and the other guy's a mess. I'll give you Gay is nowhere near what we've expected, but by the same token, he made 94% this year. So McPherson's just a remarkable story, 85%, of course, perfect right now. I just hope for a 15-12 final. It's going to come down to one of them. We know that. The other thing, going back to the receivers, is Boyd. Okay, we talk about the matchup on Chase and all that and how well Odell is doing. But if you can dump off on Boyd, they can be had because of the 22nd ranked pass defense, the Rams. So I don't think what we're saying is the O-line, he'll never have the time. He'll have some time, no question. He'll get right back up, and he's got 4 good options. And if they can give a little sliver of a hole for Mixie, watch out. Yep. He has such explosiveness. He can get 20 yards in a rush.
Yeah, and don't forget a guy like T. Higgins. Like we
T.
talk
Higgins.
about him as like
Yes.
their third best receiver. You know it's good when T. Higgins is your third best receiver. And guys, I thought this was interesting. It doesn't mean a lot, but when I was looking at postseason stat leaders, the top like 5. So we have Cincinnati, Sam Hubbard has 3 sacks, and Trey Hendrickson 2.5 sacks. Both of those guys play for the Bengals. The other 2, Von Miller has 2 sacks and Aaron Donald 1.5. So listen, it's not like the Cincinnati pass rush has been non-existent. It's been statistically a little bit better in the postseason in the few games that they've played. Again, doesn't mean much, but at least it shows you that Cincinnati does have some semblance of a defense themselves. They're not just going to let Matthew Stafford sit back there and tee off to OBJ and Cooper Kupp. Now, whether or not you can handle Cooper Kupp, I think is an entirely different thing, because you can have a great passing defense, and Cooper Kupp will still make you work for every single yard of all of it.
Sean, I've got a question too. A guy that can't be forgotten here is Cam Akers. I hope there's a good feature story on him. Here's a guy, the Achilles is gone 6 months ago. Would he ever play again? He could be a factor. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, if the Rams get a lead, just give it off to him, because Akers is just an amazing story. And we don't know whether Sony Michel will be there or not. He got some starts, but I think Akers could be a sleeper here.
I think you got it both. It's a two-headed monster with him and Michelle. They can play off. The other guy, health is an issue, is the Bengal tight end, Azuma. He was great early in the playoffs, great against the Raiders. Ashley, you said it, that Bengal pass rush, they rush 5. They'll line up 5. They're so confident with their secondary and their linebacker play that they can do that. They made life very difficult for Derek Carr. That's one of the first time I really noticed them, and just how good they were. I think they can get to them. And you're going to stop Cooper Kupp? No. But if you can get to Matt Stafford, you can limit those big plays. And that's kind of how you win these games. What I'm looking forward to most, and it happens in every Super Bowl, and sometimes it's the unlikely guy and sometimes it's the quarterback. What I want to see this week, I want to see a close game. I want to see 2 minutes left and somebody's got the ball in their hand, and can they become a legend? That's what happens in Super Bowls, right? Roethlisberger against Arizona, Santonio Holmes. He's known for one thing in his career, other than a big contract for the Jets that he didn't really earn. And Joe Montana against the Bengals in January of '89, the big 89-yard drive for them. That's what I want to see. I hate blowouts in Super Bowls. It's a letdown. Let's see these two teams line up, get after each other, and who's going to become a legend in their town in NFL history. And that's the intrigue to the Super Bowl each year for me.
And we've been treated to that all postseason long, with the exception, I think, of Wild Card Week. Wild Card Week was a stinker. After that, we've gotten good game after good game. I mean, all 4 games down to a field goal in the divisional round. It couldn't have been any better. So yeah, you hope for the same. The greatest part about this game for me, and I guess it happens pretty often because I'm a Giants fan, so we don't get there very often. But like, I don't have a rooting interest at all in this game. But I also really like both teams. There are things about both teams that I really like. I love Joe Burrow. I love Jamar Chase. I think it's a great story. I think the city of Cincinnati would probably burn down if they won. But I also love Matthew Stafford. And I love that guys like Stafford, who put in so many years in what has been historically a terrible franchise, he's now getting his shot to win a Super Bowl, because he deserves that. Nobody deserves to go through what Calvin Johnson, you know what I mean? Like, you always want, and Aaron Donald too, like, you want to give guys who have meant so much to this game at least the chance to play in a Super Bowl. If you don't win it, okay. But I love that these guys are getting a shot to play in the Super Bowl.
I love the fact too, we've got some bright young coaches here. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's something big in common here. Okay, Zach Taylor, they play for him. Yes, his clock management, that will improve as he's in the league longer. Okay, there's questions about that. But they play for him, young, enthusiastic coach with a young, enthusiastic team, and it works at Pop Warner. Yes, it can work in the NFL. And if I recall, Sean McVay was only his second year in the Super Bowl. He was a young, enthusiastic coach too. He's got all the talent to play with now. But I think it's great to see 2 young coaches that can have incredibly bright, tremendous careers. It's tough to get there once, but twice is better. But Zach Taylor, tremendous. And if the only thing that could hurt McVay, if he keeps sipping that stupid "let's go for 2" Kool-Aid, don't do that now. At least not till the 4th, please.
We ready for predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ashley, who you got?
I'm going 27-24 Bengals.
Ooh.
I think
Okay.
it's a little more high scoring than Sarah thought, but I'll take the Bengals by a field goal because that's been a trend.
I think in this case, I got to go the Rams 31-24, and I think it'll be Stafford that will get his Elway moment. I'm not saying he's retiring, but I really hope that he'll pull this out, and I've got to go with them by 7 and play the 48.5 over.
You had to bring up Horseface into our show. Thanks. Bengals 30, Rams 28. McPherson wins it in the last minute with his third field goal of the game.
All right.
Like I said, I just think the Bengals overcame that humpback, Casey. The fact this game is in LA means nothing. They don't draw fans when it's a home game for
The
them.
tickets
It's a
also
Super Bowl.
cost $25,000. Who's going to that other
There's
than
only
corporate?
6,000 public tickets available, what I
Yeah,
read,
come on.
and I hope they're all from Cincinnati.
Get
No,
out.
I think the Bengals have a destiny thing going. I'm rooting for Zach Taylor, and I think Joe Burrow is. You give me one quarterback right now in the league, I'm taking him.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
how much I think of Joe Burrow.
I think I mentioned this last week, but he has the chance to be the first to win a national championship, a Heisman Trophy, and a Super Bowl. The first ever to do it. And he would do it in 3 years. He would have done it all in a row.
Yeah. I wonder how many guys have done that. I know Charles Woodson did it with Michigan and in Green Bay.
Won a high. Well, not all three. You mean won a high national championship Super Bowl?
Well, he won a split national title in '97 for
Okay.
Michigan. That might be pushing it.
I was going to say the stat that I read was but maybe he was the first quarterback. It could be quarterback.
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 Yeah.
Quarterback,
That makes
yeah.
sense.
And we're on the Woodson thing. I told you guys he liked to tweet a response that I had to his tweet last night. So that's my guy. I might start drinking whiskey just to get some Woodson whiskey now.
That was a Chris trivia question this week about the tuck rule. Who caused the fumble? Which was a fumble.
It was a fumble. All right. Hey, before we get to our whiteboards, Johnstone Supply in Troy is ready to help you as this frigid winter sets in this month. Now it's more important than ever to make sure your furnace or boiler is ready to handle the extra workload on the way this winter. Plus, what happens if your unit breaks down? Make sure you tell your family, friends, and more. The place to call is Johnstone Supply in Troy, 518-272-5922. The crew at Johnstone Supply will give you the advice you need to get out of that dilemma and figure out the best solution for you. If you already know you must make a change this winter, Johnstone Supply in Troy has new high-efficient Goodman furnace and Naveen boiler. So stop in at 6th Avenue to learn more. Call Johnstone Supply, 518-272-5922, and do us a favor. Hit 2 for the counter guys and tell Tom, Kevin, James, or Rob that you heard it here on M&M&M Across the Board, part of the Gozilla Media family.
Hey, one quick thing, okay? No more tuck rule talk. I'm going to be like that guy in the ad, the parents guy. You're becoming your parents, okay? So don't do that. No more tuck rules. I'm going to be the parents guy from the ad to say, stop
It's
talking.
hard. The 30 for 30 just came out. I mean, give me a break.
No, I had a guy in my Pugsley's Pit podcast the other day, a Raider podcaster, say he wanted to watch it because Charles Woodson is on it with Brady. I've lived that for 20 years. No thanks. Can't do it.
I get it.
Becoming
All right, who's going first?
Might I go first this week?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm watching the Bruins last night. I was going to bash Major League Baseball and the MLBPA, but I'll give props to one of my favorites. Word broke last night during the Bruin game that Tuukka Rask is nearing retirement.
Tuukka
tried to come back from a torn labrum last year in the playoffs. That's a tough injury for a hockey goalie due to your hip. And when he came back this year, he wasn't the same. He had no AHL warm-ups and all that due to some COVID issues. They shut down the Providence Bruins. And he come back, he's just not the same. And then, like I said, it broke last night. He's probably going to retire. Hopefully he doesn't get Brady'd is now the term to where some reporter announces it before he did and take away his thunder. But Tuukka Rask has been the best goalie in the history of the Bruins. He's not liked by the entire Bruin fan base, which is an absolute shame.
Yeah,
because he carried them to the Cup final in 13 and 19. They didn't win it. It wasn't all on him. but he's been underappreciated by some of the Bruin fan base, but by the rational Bruin fan base like me, we love him. Tuukka, forever a Boston Bruin, future NHL Hall of Famer, and just a steady, solid guy, and he is going to be missed. So, Tuukka, thank you.
Hey, there was an old-time goalie. Tiny Thompson was phenomenal. Jerry Cheevers, can't compare him, without a doubt.
No.
This guy is number one on the all-time great goalie list in Boston.
Wow.
Yeah, and the biggest bash on him is that he wasn't Tim Thomas. Tuukka was a backup on the Cup in 2011. That's a ridiculous bash on him because the Bruins have won the Stanley Cup once in 50 years.
Right.
So, you know.
Eric, you want to go?
All right.
It's upside down.
Mike Tirico, wherefore art thou? Okay, next week we'll all talk extensively about the Olympics in the playing arena, slopes, rinks, and courses. This whiteboard is about the oil and water in the room, sports and politics. Hold your breath. Last week I touched on the 80 U.S. women's volleyball team. We know they couldn't compete due to a political boycott. So this year NBC has production and some announcing crews in Beijing, announcers in Connecticut, and crews in LA stretched them in. So to their credit, and of course, not just because Ashley works with an NBC affiliate, they'll pull off magnificent coverage stretched all over the world for the Olympics and the Super Bowl. Mike Tirico became the next Bob Costas as the face of NBC Sports. He was supposed to be Beijing through today's taping Thursday, then fly to LA to be the lead of the coverage, including the 82-hour pregame show. Now, on the opening telecast of the Olympics, he talked extensively, unfortunately, about human rights and thoughts of genocide, and even was joined, if you saw it, by two professors whom he interviewed about this subject, one from Yale. It was informative, but it really felt a little awkward. Lester Holt should have been there. It was a news thing. So a few days later, suddenly Mike flies back earlier, and other anchors take over the coverage. There's a lot of foggy thoughts in the media, and seems as though the waters became muddy. It really does. So sports and politics don't mix. We saw the reaction of baseball's removal of the All-Star game in Atlanta for the people of Atlanta. No matter the side of the aisle, it's a no-win situation. Sports is about the athletes. In this case, their years of practice and devotion to bring them to this moment to compete against the best in the world. NBC and other networks are telling the stories of these great stars, including Ashley. So let's think about them, their efforts, their dedication, and their hero status. Let's leave politics to meet the press.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Tell that to
my guess is it might not have been his idea. Somebody had to okay it and know it was all happening, so I wouldn't put it squarely on his shoulders, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. Somebody higher up. We don't know how high.
Good
Ashley,
one. All right.
speaking of Olympics.
Let's say, speaking of athletes and the Olympics, listen, unfortunately, this feels a little bit, and I know Eric had texted me this feels, Michaela Schifrin's start to the Olympic Games feels a little bit like Simone Biles in the Summer Games. It's not identical, but Schifrin's had a tough start to the games, has DQ'd in both of her first two events, which were giant slalom and slalom, and unfortunately, those are her best two events. She has medaled in each before. Tough start, like we said. And if you could, like the interview with her this morning that we had to air on TV, it was literally heart-wrenching. It was heart-wrenching because you could hear it in her voice, you could see it in her eyes, that like she almost couldn't put the words together to make sense of what had happened. And listen, I don't know what the conditions are. She says the conditions are good, but it literally takes a split second for some of these things to happen, for her to like slide her feet to slide out from under her skis to slide out from under her, for her to miss a gate because you could tell she kind of like, skidded a little bit out of control. A split second. And this is an athlete whose dreams are literally like crumbling in front of us. So for people to go out and be like, oh, she sucks, she's underachieved, whatever, it breaks my heart because you think you feel bad about it. Imagine how she feels. It's her life. It's her medals. It's everything she was planning to bring home that she's now not bringing home. So ease up on the she sucks stuff because she's the greatest American skier currently and will probably be the greatest American skier ever if she isn't already. So she will be just fine. She's 26 years old. I understand she's in the prime of her career. She's got 3 more events to ski. So it's not like she's not coming home with any medals. That hasn't been decided yet. I just hope because listen, these were physical things that happened. You just hope that now it doesn't become a mental thing, because it very easily becomes a mental thing. And I would understand how it would become a mental thing. Her quote today was, "I've now questioned everything I've done for the last 15 years. How upsetting is that? Like, that's what a 26-year-old kid is saying because she fell once and missed a gate another time. She's questioning everything she's done in her ski career. Absurd. So I think it would be great if people would rally around her versus, tear her down the other way, because you don't want her to end up where it becomes this huge mental thing. So good for her for getting there. She's a better skier than all of us and everyone else pretty much on the planet. So shut your mouths and support Schifrin instead of tearing her down.
Yeah, Ash, I pick up on that because that stuff drives me crazy, even going back to last summer with Biles. You know what? The people who do that are, to me, they're just upset with their own lives and their own shortcomings and failures, and they project it out on somebody because, in their view, they let down this country. They didn't let down anybody.
Right.
She might have let herself down, or she feels that way, but guess what? That's the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. She didn't do it on purpose. She didn't train for 4 years to go miss a gate or fall down. It's beyond stupid. And people just need to take a reality check and look at your own life instead of worrying about somebody else.
26 years old is a lot for the weight in the shoulders. And you know what? If I could say to her, you don't have any weight in your shoulders. You've already done so much. 47 World Cup titles, the whole bit. The social media today is absurd. Mm-hmm. And she has accomplished so much. And unfortunately, she's not the pro athlete that has a game the next day, 2 days later, or every Sunday. She does get to compete right through like the 18th, which is good. But no matter what happens, phenomenal career. Her whole life's ahead of her. And real Americans are very proud of her. And we all shed a tear when we watched that live. But she's going to get right back up there and bring one home.
Yep. Yeah. And we're going to do Olympics. We'll go dive right into the Olympics next week. So we'll have much, much more to talk about. And I hope that we are talking about her bringing home at least one medal, but like getting back up there and, giving it the old college try, because I hope that she's in, a good mental space to do that. Because listen, she deserves, even if just to compete, just to cross the finish line, get back to knowing that you are the best skier in the world and nobody questions that. So go show them. So
and
I hope
Dad is looking down on her right now, patting her in the head, right?
And people forget about that too. Like, she's gone through a lot.
You do the best job you can do. That's all you can ask. And that's all anybody else can ask. And if it's good enough, great. If it's not, oh well.
Listen, it's good enough for me.
Absolutely.
Good
Well,
enough.
you guys are good enough for me, that's for sure.
Oh, that's so sweet of you, Eric.
Even when I disappear. Sorry.
Hopefully we're good enough for our viewers, too, who join us every week. Thanks for joining us. M&M&M Across the Board, Twitter at MMMATB1. Apple, YouTube, Spotify. You can find us everywhere. We appreciate you listening, subscribing, and sharing, if you would please be so kind. And we'll see you next week. And guys, we'll have a Super Bowl winner and we'll have Olympics crazy. So let's do it.
And Dan Wolzanowski.
Oh, yeah. And a guest. Guys, it's going to be loaded. We're loaded next week. Come on back.
All right. We'll see you.
Thank you.